Well, welcome back to the next week's edition, season 3 episode. I think we're on 13.
16.
I'm so close. There's going to be an episode where I actually get the right number. But now at this point, I feel like I need to guess incorrectly to keep suit with how it's been going.
For sure. I agree.
So season 3, episode 16. Keith, is it McKeever?
Yes, it is. Keith McKeever.
Awesome. Joining us from the bright state of Illinois. I'm guessing your weather is about the same as ours.
Probably. It's I got a little window in my home office that I can see out of. I call this my dungeon because I'm in the basement. Yeah. My wife runs a home-based business upstairs, so she gets the nice room with all the light. I get this the typical basement window. I can tell the sun is out. I can see a little bit on the window well, but that's about it.
It's deceiving. The sun is out, but it's a bombing 35 degrees.
But you know what? This time of year, I will take the sun being out. I don't care how cold it is, as long as the sun is out, instead of these overcast, rainy days like we've had the last couple of weeks.
Yeah,
it seems like every other day.
Which was a transition from our snow in April, which was great.
Midwest living, right?
It's great. And it comes with its ups and downs. Like the season changing keeps a lot of like the bugs and critters that in all these sunny south areas you have to worry about. Like you don't have to worry about poisonous spiders, really.
That is true. I'm actually impressed with how green our grass is right now.
Until they come and rip up your front yard for the
lateral. Yeah, that too. But it's okay because there's a belly in our lateral, so we won't have a belly anymore, and I'm really excited for that.
Oh, that's good.
Yay.
That's good.
It's nice when the grass is nice and green in the spring. I noticed that the other day driving around, and I was like, wow, it was winter that long that just green grass just seems like this amazing sight.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've actually gotten pictures from my buddy in California. He'll take a picture of like a hillside and it's all brown, just dead grass. And then after one rainfall, everything is green for like 4 days, and then it's right back to brown.
Oh, yikes.
It's crazy.
That would suck.
Yeah. That is not pleasant. So I guess for that, I'll take a little bit of snow. And it's really not the snow that bothers me. It's when it's melting and it's cold and it's like sleeting and everything's gray. That's the part that I could do away with. But the snow is fine.
You know what I hate the worst about living in the Midwest is the temperature changes during the day, where you walk outside and it's cold, so you're wearing a jacket, but then you get in your car that's been sitting in the sun and all of a sudden it's 15 degrees warmer. Yeah. And you get in there and you're like, okay, now I'm hot. Now I got to take this off. And then you start getting cold and it's just like, you're just hot and cold all day. And it seems like there's like a 3-week period of the year.
Yep.
You're constantly fighting temperatures. Yeah. It's weird.
And on the bigger scale, like you have a day that's 70, then the next day is 40.
Exactly. Yeah, you can't really put away your winter clothes until at least
May?
Early part of May. Yeah.
No, even my winter jacket, I need to take it to be dry cleaned, and I'm like, I'm not doing it until I'm not wearing it anymore.
Yep, that's true.
Put it in your calendar, June or July 1st.
Exactly. So correct.
Well, it is so good to have another Midwesterner on the show. We've had East Coast, we've had West Coast, we've had our neighbors to the north.
Yes.
So being able to get somebody back from the Midwest for our audience to see what's kind of going on, maybe not in Wisconsin, but in that Midwest region is big. And I always start the show. Oh yeah, that is 2 in a row.
Yeah.
Big time here. Getting into what you do, Keith, just for our audience, can you give us a rundown of kind of your background? Where did you come from? What do you do currently? How did you get into that role? Wherever you want to take it, just kind of give us a brief background of what you do in your business.
Okay. All right. Yeah, for me, when it comes to real estate, it honestly goes back to when I was very, very young. My father got his real estate license in 1988, and my mother got her license a few months later to kind of help him out. He was a coal miner full time, doing real estate part time, and she fell in love with the business, and so she took off from there. My dad didn't sell until the coal mine he worked at closed in 1996. So he sold for about 5-6 years until he passed away, unfortunately. But they built their dream home in the around 1990, 1991, built a log cabin out in the woods. So my parents had rentals, they had flips, they they sold the packages and kind of managed the work. There was other, contract companies that actually built them, but between that and residential real estate, like they had their hands in everything as a kid. So dinner conversations
That's
were
awesome.
literally around real estate.
That's awesome.
Terms like earnest money were something that I didn't know what it was at the time, but I definitely heard it talked about.
Yeah.
Contracts and forms. And, my parents had an office on the main floor and they had their 2 desks in there and they would be plugging away. Or my dad, he was a finger typer, one finger typer.
The hunt and peck.
The
I
hunt
love
peck,
that
yeah,
technique.
exactly. So, so he would have been totally lost today with technology. That's for darn sure. But,
There's voice chat now.
yeah, exactly. Hey, he'd probably been all right. He would have been one of those guys. Yeah, that was, that's what mom did. And then when I graduated high school, I went to college for a couple of years, got an associate's, and then kind of got bored and joined the Air Force. It was Air Force Security Forces, did that for 5.5 years, traveled around the world, did a couple deployments, came back, sold furniture for a year. And then mom, had some things going on in my family. Had, my youngest was born at the time, and she's like, hey, why don't you get into real estate and do something different? Because I loved sales. I loved working at the furniture store for some reasons, but I did not like working 70 hours a week on my feet. We had to unload the trucks, sweep, mop, dust, clean the bathrooms. Like we did everything. There was no outside cleaning crews. There was one warehouse guy. If he wasn't there, we loaded the furniture in people's vehicles. We were busy all the time. And I was like, hey, I love dealing with the people, but I don't want to work these kind of crazy hours. It was too much time away. And so she's like, yeah, get in real estate. And so I said, you know what? I'll take a leap of faith and do it. Even though as a kid, I denied the fact that I was ever going to do it. There was no way I was ever going to get in this business.
Right.
I probably said it 50 different ways as a kid.
Your parents were just slowly pruning you.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the family business. It comes to calling, but so I got into business 9 years ago, and it's just been a crazy, crazy ride since then. And, got involved with committees and sit on the board of directors of our local association. I serve at the state level in a couple of different committees, and I find a lot of value in that and a lot of value in serving our clients. And it's an interesting and fun industry where you can just kind of go whatever direction you want. There's so many different ways.
Yeah.
It's not a one size fits all for sure.
Yeah. There's 2 things in that I really, really liked. One was kind of a carryover from our last podcast. He talks about he had 2 aunts, and one aunt was wealthy, one aunt was not wealthy.
Oh.
And the big difference was what they talked about at the dinner table. One talked about finances, one talked about like the local newspaper, what was the tabloid for the day. And it's showing with the past and the courses of their each individual respective families and where they take it. Mm-hmm. So to that point, you guys being around real estate, talking about the terms and processes and all that stuff from an early age, I'm sure sitting back there waiting for you to flex the muscle of real estate once you got older.
It definitely made it easier, especially up to a few months ago, because mom's career is going a different direction than mine is. She's not ready for retirement, but she's got a few years till retirement. So we switched companies a couple months ago and went off solo, but for almost 9 years we were partners, and it was the best person in the world I could have learned from. But yeah, there was a lot of those things that as you learn about them, not necessarily in real estate school, because I don't know how it is in Wisconsin, but in Illinois, everything you learn in those, I went for 2 weeks straight to get my license. I don't think there was anything I learned in there that was really valuable to the day-to-day life of an agent. And most of it's stuff you just got to learn, get it out on the test, pass, and then you can kind of forget about it. But there was all those things. The field. Yeah, then you learn the field. As you're learning the field, it was like, oh, okay, all right, like I get that. And then looking at houses differently, because my parents had rentals, they had flips. As a kid, I mean, they never let me do the fun stuff. They never let me play with electrical. I was always the hold the flashlight kid.
Oh, yeah.
Or you know what? This wall is safe. There's no electrical or plumbing in here. You can swing the sledgehammer at this one.
Exactly. Yes, I remember that.
Or here's the dustpan in the bag. Start put as much as you can in there and get it out to the dumpster. Or clean it out after tenants get evicted and go in there and clean up their stuff. side note on that, I actually ended up with my Sega Genesis as a kid from a rental.
Really?
I could never believe somebody left that, and they're like, yeah, like, these people have been gone for like weeks. Like, sure, take it.
Awesome. Score.
Win.
Score, yeah. So yeah, there was even a couple of games with it, so it was a win-win.
That is
Absolutely.
perfect.
It
So I'm
definitely
making a
helped.
mental note because my son comes to work with me a couple times, especially during the summer. Don't give him the boring jobs. Is the takeaway for that one?
You know what? You gotta earn your dues though too.
That's true.
Yeah, you gotta
He's
give him
made some
some
pretty
boring
cool
jobs.
stuff. Like he's fully decked out with his own tool belt.
There you go.
He just got a hammer with the nail set, which he thinks is the coolest thing in the world.
Awesome.
Where you can just put your nail on top and then start it and then sink it.
Oh,
He's made squirrel boxes. He's made just with all scrap lumber. He comes over, he's like, Dad, can I have this? And I'm like, if it's under this size, just take it. It's yours. Go build whatever you want. So he'll just go out in the backyard and start building whatever creation he wants. And I'm like, okay, he's interested. He's using the tools. I've seen him pull the tape measure out a couple times. I don't really know if he like completely knows how to use it, but
I love it.
it's in his tool belt. He feels like he needs to use it.
That's so cute.
You know what though? At least he's using it and he's exploring his creative side.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sure he'll learn a ton just figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
Trial and
And that's
error.
kind of what I'm trying to lead him to, but
He's gonna be the next big YouTuber. He's gonna like explode in like 10 years.
oh, he's already hooked on YouTube.
I know.
It's hard to pull him away from it.
They all are.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah. I just downloaded a new game for us to play on PS4. And before I could explain what the game is, he knew what it was.
Of
I was
course.
like, it's like this game and you're in a car and it's kind of like soccer. And he's like, oh, Rocket League. I've already played it. Okay. And his favorite YouTuber plays it. So I'm always behind the times. I'm boring dad behind the times.
Boring mom right here. Yeah. I
That
got
is
it.
a tough transition as a parent. I've got two boys, and yeah, once you wake up one day and realize that you're not cool anymore, like you're out of touch.
How old are your
Yeah.
kids? How old are they?
9 and 11.
Okay. I just have a 10-year. He just turned 10 literally 5 days ago. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's an interesting age.
It
Well,
is.
we are the three boring parents right here.
Yeah.
Talking real estate.
Talking real estate. Love it.
The other cool thing that you said, Keith, from your story is you enjoyed working at the furniture store. You didn't like the hours. Obviously, there's going to be stress in whatever job you have. There's stress involved, but you liked working at that W-2, that employer that you had. But it was not like you're, all right, I hate this so much. I find no enjoyment. I'm just going to go find something else to do. Because in my mind, that mentality usually carries over until you can enjoy what you're doing, even slightly. I always find it's better to enjoy what you're doing and go to something that you might enjoy better rather than just leaving because you hate where you're at. Because I feel like that just transfers. So it was a really cool mindset to say, like, I liked where I was at, but I was really intrigued with what could be. Like, that's a super cool thought to have. So
Yeah, it was a pretty cool company to work for, and I think the thing that helped me is because that was my first job after the military, and so we had 2 managers and another sales guy and me, and then we had the warehouse guy. So it was such a small group of people that really helped my transition out of military. Just spending so many hours with those, and most of those guys ended up becoming like big brothers to me. They were most of them were a little bit older than me, but we just spent so much time together. Just having fun, moving. I mean, it was physically demanding to build furniture and move it around and load it up, but yeah, you spend so much time with somebody, you get to know them so well, and that was really what it was. And then people's families would come in, and sometimes Sundays somebody bring in a crock pot of soup or something like that, and
yep.
instead of eating out all the time, because we did a lot of that too. But
Yeah.
just all that time together, some of the jobs sucked, just like anything else. Sometimes real estate sucks.
Yeah.
when
Sometimes
you're-
it gets super hard to stay positive.
yes, if you're in places that are just run down and disgusting, or you got to go out in knee deep snow for 4 days in a row and drive around in it, it kind of wears on you. But
Yeah.
and
And with
really was
that,
the
even on
people.
those tough days, because real estate is so isolated, Like when you had those rough days when you were working at the furniture shop, you had a crew to kind of bring you up and level you out, and some good things happened and you could enjoy people and socializing. In real estate, sometimes, no matter, like depending on what position you're in, you may not talk to anybody your whole day because you're just in your office doing your things. And if you're having a bad day, there's no one else to bring you up.
Mhm.
That's true. That's true. But the other thing is that, no 2 days are alike either. So if you
Yep.
have one of those bad days where, you're just running for 12 hours in a row, showing one house to another, or bad weather, or something bad happens, you know what? Tomorrow's a whole new day.
Mhm.
Yep.
It's a whole new opportunity, a whole new set of problems to fix. So, that helps kind of compartmentalize it. Maybe just,
Yeah.
it's in the past. It is what it is. You learn from it and you move on.
Yeah. And you understand that in real estate, you're playing the long game. So these little bumps are little bumps. Let's keep them as little bumps.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if a transaction even closes, if a transaction closes and it was rough for whatever reason, could be any reason,
Mhm.
You're done. You're working on the other transactions. You're meeting new people. It's new opportunities. But
Yep.
that's the great part too. For the most part, it's new people. You're always
Yeah.
kind of meeting new people
Mhm.
and working with new people. So
Yeah. So are you're a real estate agent, I take it? And then I'm assuming you took over the family business in flips and rentals.
I have not dove into that yet.
Okay.
I've been on the fence on the rental thing because I know myself. I'm too nice of a guy to knock on the door and say, "Hey, you're 2 months late. Where's my money?"
I gotcha.
Somebody could give me a sob story and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, all right. I'll give you another month." Right? That's just not my personality.
Yeah.
So I was kind of against it for a while, starting to look into it now. Now that I'm like, you know what? I can't do it. I'll just have to hire a property manager
That's
to take care of that
exactly
for
what I
me.
was just gonna
I was
suggest to you.
just gonna
Yeah.
suggest.
Yeah. I
Hire
love
yourself
my
a property manager.
Yeah,
Hire
it
yourself a
took-
bulldog so you don't have to be.
Exactly, because I just know I'm like, you know what? It's just not in my personality to do that. I'd like to, but
Yeah.
I don't want
A
to get
lot
taken
of it,
advantage of.
a lot of it, either for you or for people that want to get into real estate or have a rental and don't have that bone in them. I don't feel like I have that either. So when I move my tenants in, I talk to them about it. Real estate is a very dynamic industry. We're dealing with people. So I'll always be dealing with you. You'll always be dealing with me. I'm not going to disrespect you. I hope you don't disrespect me. But at the end of the day, what we're doing is it's a business. So you are required to pay a rent. I am required to take that rent. Like that's just how this is going to work. And hopefully we don't run into problems.
That's a
But
transaction, not unlike going to the grocery store and I'm buying the groceries and I'm giving you the money. Like,
yeah. Yep. And I found if I do that ahead of time, it does ease the tension of if that does happen. Because obviously, if you've owned a rental property, I'm guessing majority of the time through COVID, it's happened where there's been a missed rent payment. So
I know a lot of landlords who had some serious issues with that. And I think another thing that comes to landlords too is personality, and
Mhm.
not just the whole, like myself, knowing that I'd have to have that bulldog, like you said, right? But just some people just take that to an extreme. Like
yeah.
their personality traits, they should not be dealing with people in any way, shape, or form.
Yes, that is true.
It's great on them for investing in real estate, but they probably shouldn't be the face of things.
Yeah.
Some
You're
people
more
just
the
open up
numbers guy.
some people just open up their mouths and just open
Verbal
mouth, insert
vomit.
foot, verbal vomit. Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, you're not helping your situation any.
Right.
They
Yeah.
just want to yell and scream and be mad at the tenant instead of like,
Solving the problem.
what's the problem here? Like, okay, you're out of a job. Like, okay, well, I mean, I can't help with that, but you still
Yeah.
owe me. Like, what are we going to do about this?
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And a lot of it, I didn't have the benefit like you did with your parents being involved in real estate and bringing you into the culture of it. I picked it up from YouTube and Spotify, like podcasts and videos, and listen to people who've been doing it for decades and how they handle certain like situations. And I'm like, all right, I remember this podcast once or this video once that talked about this. I'm pretty much going to take what they did and try to make it my own, but follow that pretty closely.
mhm.
And more often than not, it gets me through the situation, because some of these situations they're going through for the first time and I'm going through for the first time. So how can we come to a resolution? It's not that hard. We're both adults. We're both reasonable. We both want to be respectful. How do we figure out a solution to this, rather than me coming and say, this is how it's going to work and you're going to do it this way, and I don't care if you're upset.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to was, when you've got reasonable people communicating, you can fix almost anything, but you get those people who just are unreasonable for one way, shape, or you're never going to get anything accomplished. I don't care what end it's on. It could be the owner, property manager, could be the tenant. As soon as somebody goes unreasonable, all the rule book goes out the window. So
and communication's big. It's very delicate, because I always tell them, like, you're never going to bother me. You'll never bother me with a text or a phone call. You'll never bother me. Even if it's something that breaks that you didn't do anything, you'll never bother me. But let me know as soon as you know, because then I can start planning. And on some of them, like, you'll hit it off with the tenant or a couple people that move in, and now it's like, okay, I'm the landlord, you're the tenant, but like, we align and we could be friends, but where does that friend line end and start? And is that going to muddy the waters? It's a very unique kind of a place to be in with somebody, because you never want your friend to come to your door and say, like, hey, you owe me money.
That
It makes it kind of awkward.
that would put a strain, at least on the friendship.
A little bit.
Slightly.
Yeah. And like, some of my tenants I'll meet when I'm out around town and they're out around town. And I mean, you're pleasant, but for me, I always try to keep my distance, just because I don't want that in the middle of it.
Just keep it professional. Hey, we can be, good acquaintances. But that's like a limit.
When you move out and I help find you a house, then we can become friends. When there's no other strings attached.
Absolutely.
Then we can be friends.
When you move into that new front door and it is yours, and you no longer owe me money, you owe it to the bank. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and that's why I try to keep it. Hasn't failed me yet, so we'll keep going with that. So tell me about your agency. How has that been going? Obviously in the Illinois market. Where in Illinois are you? North? South?
I am in the Peoria, Illinois area, so we're about halfway between Chicago and St. Louis.
Awesome.
Yep.
Is it your own brokerage, or are you working for a broker?
No, I am with Fathom Realty.
Okay.
Which is a national independent brokerage. That's kind of a digital, no physical office locations, which is perfect for me because I've always worked out of my home office. Even at the place I was at for 9 years, I would only walk through the doors if I had to drop off papers or pick something up. And actually the staff at the brokerage I came from would actually email me, hey, you got a letter? Do you want us to open it up and send it to you? So they would do that, open up, scan it. Oh, now this isn't important. It's junk. I could throw it away. Or if it was important, they'd scan it and send it to me. And it was only 15 minutes away. It's not like I was like an hour and a half away from the office. I just never went in there. We had a room in there. We had no computer. We just had a table, some paper and pens.
All the necessities.
The basic necessities. Like, it was a place where we could meet people and get some copies made. Really that's all it was for the last 5-6 years.
Yeah.
And then, then we made this decision. It was like, look, I want to go off on my own. I want to grow my business and do my thing. And had that conversation with Mom. I said, look, you're, 7 to 10 years away from retirement. Why are we still a partnership? Like, why don't we go off as solo agents in a new company, fresh start? We can still be there to help each other, but we don't have to, advertise together. You can go do what you want to do. I want to do what I want to do. And for me, it was kind of liberating, like, finally get to build my own brand, do my own thing, my own way of doing things, because it's a little bit of a strain sometimes working with your parent.
I can see that.
I can see that.
It changes relationships. From Mom and I got to this point, like, as we're recording this, right, Easter's this coming weekend, and holidays and stuff. Anytime we get together when we were partners, it would be like, hey, what's going on with so-and-so? what happened to that deal? Or, hey, what do you think about this weird situation that's going on? What's your interpretation? Inevitably, every time we would get together, something real estate would come up every time.
Sure.
And, it's fine because mom and I've got a great relationship, always have, and we still do, but it changed that relationship a little bit. It wasn't strictly mother son. One of the things I wanted was not only for myself, I was like, you know what? I want her to go off and do her own thing so she can ride off in the sunset whenever she decides to hang up her hat.
Yeah.
Because she needs to enjoy retirement whenever she gets to that point.
Sure.
Like as stress-free as possible. So we are both extremely happy to be where we're at now and doing our own things.
That's
I
awesome.
even got her doing her own website edits, which is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tech savvy.
Yeah, 20 or 30 minutes of showing her and some tips and tricks, and she's getting to be the master at Squarespace now. So
Good for
That's
her.
awesome.
yeah, I'm impressed.
That's awesome. Super cool that you guys were able to work together and then separate and kind of go your own paths. Did you find that there was something that wasn't being fulfilled when you were in the partnership that you wanted to explore? Was it like an asset class that you wanted to go after? Was it a client that you wanted to go after? Was it an area? Like, what was the different aspect that you were seeking out going independent?
Yeah. So when I got into business, I'd say the first like 2 or 3 years, I was learning from her. Every question I had was to her. She's been doing this for 34 years now, something like that. So she had been in the business 25 or so when I got in it. So then it reached a point where I had the confidence. I knew what I was doing. I had served on some different committees and felt comfortable finally, like hit the ground running, like really knew a lot of the different aspects of real estate. Then after serving on different committees and the board of directors and other things, like something happened one night where all of a sudden it went from me asking her questions for 2 or 3 years to a couple of years where we would just have casual conversations about, to the point where she'd be like, so what's the stance on this? What is our association stand? What is our association doing with this and that? Because I've been on the board of directors for 6 years. I've served on pretty much every committee. So I've seen multiple aspects of the association.
Yeah.
And then the managing broker / owner of the company I was at, she was starting to do that. And I was like, wait a minute, this is weird. I've only been doing this, at that time, like 6-7 years. And I'm like, why am I all of a sudden being the vault keeper to the information?
Yeah.
And so I was like, I kind of just grew to this point. I'm like, at that point I was kind of getting frustrated. It was great working with mom. We still bounce stuff off of each other. But I just kind of wanted to go do my own thing as a veteran.
Yeah.
I wanted to niche into the veteran thing. We were a partnership. We would advertise together, but I was running all the social media. I was doing all of that. And I'm like, look, if I'm building the brand for both of us, I don't know, there's just like this mental block in there somewhere of like, if I'm going to be building a brand, I want to build my brand the way I want to do it, not us, and then because all her work is past clients and referrals. Like she doesn't need to advertise. She doesn't go after new leads. Like
that's nice.
But I do, I don't have that. I've been doing this 9 years. The average is what, like every 7 to 10 years, somebody will sell their house. Well, I'm just now at that point where some of my past clients are starting to sell their house and move up again.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it just takes some time to get to that past clients to come back to you in this business. So, that was kind of one of the driving factors. I'm like, you don't need to advertise. You don't need to grow. You don't need to niche into anything. You have your people.
Yeah.
All you got to do is stay in front of them. I have to go attract new clients. I have to do some lead gen and some stuff like that to grow. So I was like, if we're together and we're advertising, but we're not doing exactly what we need for each one of our businesses, then what's the point of being together? We should be able to put 100% of our focus into what we each need to individually do. So that was kind of the driving the factor behind it. It was like, it's time.
Yeah.
If we're going to change companies, it's perfect time to do it. So.
As company needs on that one. And you guys are still communicating well and
share
ideas and all that stuff.
We live like 6 minutes from each other. We both went to the same company. We actually bought kind of generic open house signs for the company just so we could share them. Like, hey, let's just split the cost. Like, we don't need that many. Like, let's just get a couple of signs and we'll kind of coordinate. Like, if you're having one this weekend, you have the signs. I'll schedule one for next weekend.
Yeah.
You know, like we
That's
worked
cool. And
together
she
at
went to
it.
the same brokerage?
Yeah, she went to the same brokerage.
Awesome.
Yeah, so we can.
And I was going to ask you about the brokers, because you're seeing more and more of these, I'm going to call them e-brokers or i-brokers, popping up where there's no physical office. It's all online, more like the nationally known, or I guess they do have individual state ones, but I was always curious to see what services they offer, how they operate, because that's the one brokerage sect that I did not interview into. I went to the big box, I went to the little boutiques. I didn't go to that electronic broker type feel.
I think
And maybe it was because I was early on and I was like, I want that physical support. Maybe I don't want the big broker, like the big box, but like even at a boutique, you can call your broker up on the phone, or you can email the other agents and they'll give you support. But what are you finding? Because you've done both, I guess.
Yeah, I
You've
was
done
at
the
a
physical
a
location.
franchise for 9
Yeah.
years, and I'll say, they had a lot of tools and stuff, design centers and stuff like that. Was not a fan of it. It was just
Okay.
kind of clunky, hard to use. I prefer to use Canva just because Canva is so much easier.
You're speaking Natasha's language right
now. I'm probably in Canva like every other day, if either for real estate stuff or for my podcast or creating stuff. Like all my marketing guides, everything, they're all in there kind of as a template. All I got to do is make little tweaks and then, download as a PDF again. Yeah, here's the updated version. Quick and simple, right? And then it's my design. And I did take some inspiration from some of their stuff, kind of use it to.
You have to
set my template a little bit. But, the broker that I had was like an office mom to us. She was wonderful. Still have a great relationship with her. She's actually on the board of directors with me. So, there's one guy between us, but she could reach out and smack me in the back of the head if she wanted to. And she probably would. But we just got that kind of relationship. She's just a wonderful person. So it made it kind of hard, but it was just time. I needed that change. And, she was always there for me. But that was one of my concerns too, was like, who do you call? Like, how fast do you get answers? And so that was kind of nerve-wracking to figure out some of those other things. But I'll tell you, Fathom it's kind of a knockoff of Canva in some ways. It's a little clunkier to use, but they've got like a design suite. You can buy all your t-shirts and hats and all that kind of stuff there too. And as for a managing broker, my designated managing broker is in Ottawa, Illinois. So she's about halfway between here and Chicago, but she knows and understands the Chicago market, which is totally different than ours. But she also knows and understands, because they use attorneys. We don't use attorneys down here very frequently.
I was going to ask you about that.
So yeah, they're very infrequently used. 98% of transactions don't have an attorney involved, other than, the attorney doing the title work. But in Chicago, it's, 5-day attorney reviews, like attorneys are involved in everything up there. So she knows and understands both. And she's been responsive. I get an answer to just about anything that I can text her with. I'll get an answer within a few hours, because that was one of my concerns joining down here. I'm like, am I going to have somebody in Chicago or down by St. Louis that doesn't know anything about my market or how we do things, or are they going to be unresponsive? But so far, Gina's been great. Because it's all digital brokerage, everything's in this backdoor portal. So they've got almost like a Wikipedia kind of thing. You can type in whatever phrase you want. It'll pop up any kind of article matching those keywords. You can find all kinds of information about it.
That's nice.
They got Facebook groups, local Facebook groups, statewide ones. They've got different, they've got a Hispanic division. They just rolled out a veteran division, which I signed up for earlier this week. I don't know exactly what is there too. They've got opportunities to serve on different committees, technology committees and stuff like that. So it's connected, but it's all digital.
Awesome.
Meetings via Zoom and stuff like that. So I still feel kind of connected. I've met digitally a handful of other brokers up in Chicago.
Yeah.
Haven't met most of them in person. A couple of them I've served on the state pro standards committee with. So I know of them, but I've never, went up and talked to them in person, but I will at the next meetings we have or something. But so, yeah, there was a lot of that, like, well, where do you turn in your paperwork? Like, how do you get paid? Like, how does all this work? And, it's quite simple. You just basically like a mobile deposit of a check. You basically do that to upload it to their system, and then they pay you, and then you can either print off a check and print it or mobile deposit it. Like it's that
That's
simple.
awesome. Seems like the
So,
process is pretty
and then-
easy to get on
Yeah,
board
so
with.
far it seems real easy. They've got their own CRM and management system where you got to plug all your documents in. I jumped to the company about 2 weeks before Mom did, and because she was kind of nervous about the technology. And as soon as I got access to it, I said, "You'll be fine.
Yeah.
This is as easy of click and upload as you can possibly do."
Yeah.
Like they kept it simple. So far everything's great.
That's
Got
great.
You
And
know,
you
tech
talked about
support.
your
You can call and
CRM.
email.
Is the CRM more of a lead generation thing, or is it more managing your business?
Yeah. So they've got the website through them, the typical CRM features. They've got a couple of other tools in there that I'm still trying to figure out how to incorporate, because I've only been there for, I guess, about 2 months now. So still trying to figure all that out. But yeah, there's some lead generation stuff in there. You can text message to your clients. You can email your clients through it. I think there's some QR code things in there that you can do. They've got single property websites that are almost like click and drop to set up. It's ridiculously simple. For a tech savvy guy like me, it's like I did the 1 hour trainings. Half of them I stopped halfway through. I was like, this is so basic to me. I was like, I already explored through it and figured out all this stuff just by looking at it. So I was like, easy, got it.
Yeah. I remember I worked in customer service and we had a month-long training. And I to this day, I think the worst thing they could have done was tell me, like, you're in a vacuum right now. No matter what button you push, it's the system that we use on the floor. But in here, you're not hooked up to anything. So you can make orders, you can cancel orders, they're all fake. And then they put on a video. And I was like, I do better with doing. So I was just sitting there clicking through the system, clicking random buttons to find out where it did. And by like halfway through the video, I'd gone through the whole system, didn't completely understand it, but like I made sure I clicked every button to see where it brought me and what communicated to each other.
Yeah.
And I got more value out of that than the video tutorials that they were putting out.
Yeah, it sounds like you're just like me, more of a hands-on learner. Like, just let me kind of play around with it. Let me just look through here. Sorry if I messed something up, but
Right.
like I can get so much more by just figuring it out. But then again, at my age and being tech savvy, it's easy. It's
that called being bullheaded, though. I feel like that's me.
Yeah, but I guess for a training perspective, you got to make it well-rounded for everybody.
Yeah.
That's another thing. That's an aspect of this business that I'm starting to crack into. I got my CE educator's license a couple years ago. Just submitted a couple courses to my local association just a few weeks ago. So I haven't taught anything yet, but that's on the radar. I'll probably be teaching some classes this fall. But that's one thing I learned going through that process was like, okay, how does the student interact with this? Like, you look at our membership, at least in Illinois, you can get your real estate license at 18 here. So we have members probably 18, 19 years old, all the way up to, I know a few that are in their early 90s and still practicing.
Wow.
That is a wide range in just our association of tech savviness.
Yep.
Some people, I know our association staff very well, and they still get phone calls from people that they can't figure out why their printer isn't working.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, that's
I'm
not
sure
the
they're loving
association's
the
job.
Sentry Lock.
Oh God. Well, you know what? When Central Lock came out with getting rid of the card here, what was that, March 1st that came out? Whatever that happened. Oh, I think for 3 or 4 months, we were getting updates on our board of directors about, we're getting more complaints. People think the world is going to just internally combust.
In Sentry Lock, for the viewers who aren't familiar, everybody knows those black lock boxes that have like the 4 spin dials. You put in the right code, it pops open, you take the key out. Sentry Lock now communicates with your phone. So when you go to the door as an agent, you hit your app, it like awakens this Bluetooth lockbox, you put in your own specific code as you as an agent, and it opens up for it. So there is some tech involved, but still a pretty easy process. And the reason they went to it was because everything is time stamped. They know what agent is opening the door. They know when the agent left and locked the lockbox. Like all of that gets brought back to the association, so they know, and it's very safe and secure.
I was gonna say, I think it's even safer for the real estate agents now too. So somebody knows where they are at all times.
There's safety features in it. So when you open the lockbox, because obviously you've heard the horror stories of agents meeting new clients that they haven't heard or seen before, reached out, wanted to see a house, and then something goes wrong. They've got like security features. So if I don't turn it off after a minute, it'll automatically alert police.
That's really cool.
That something is wrong. So like, for me, all of it was great. Like that just seems so much more efficient, but there's always going to be those few that are like, I'm not going to change. This is how it's been doing for years.
Yeah. A lot of the problem we had here was the actual card. So we still have some of I guess there's 3 generations of the central lock. You got like a blue case that has the card insert.
Yep.
And then you got the tannish one that's Bluetooth. And then there's another generation that's, I guess, just about ready to roll out, whatever that entails. So we still have a lot of the blue ones in our market. And, Central Lock came out and said, hey, we're going to get rid of these cards. And people still had the chip readers on their desk. And in our area, it was update every day. If it wasn't updated in the last 24 hours, you couldn't use your card. So I'm like,
oh
my God.
When they came out with the app, I immediately jumped to it. I was like, because I hated having to remember to plug in my card.
Yeah.
Sure, you could call the number on the back and you could have them do it, but you'd have to do it at the house. Like, oh crap, I forgot to, let me get on my phone and make a phone call and have them update through the web, whatever. So yeah, they were losing their minds. Like, how are we supposed to wake these up? And we keep telling people like, you could just stick your business card up there, like, or your debit card, your credit card, whatever, just stick it up there and it'll wake up those boxes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes if they sit for a while, they just the batteries don't go dead. The batteries are good for like 5 years, but they just kind of go into a deep sleep, if you will. And it's just stick that up there or push the buttons and it'll wake it up. Like,
yeah. And I'm glad I never saw the first version, because as soon as I got my lockbox with the little receiver and the receiver and the card sat on my desk. I've never touched that. Like I am just on the box, just on the app. That card, if I had to use it, was going to be a pain.
I think I used the card for a good 3 or 4 years before the app came out and it was widely used, but I immediately jumped to it.
Yeah.
And in our area, we got a lot of rural areas. So that was another concern of like, okay, well, how are we supposed to get access to these lock boxes when we may not have cell phone signal?
Yeah.
And in Central Lock's like, well, if you open up the app when you have service and you don't fully close that app out in your phone, it will automatically download like whatever it needs to be able to access any box. And then it will do
I didn't know
through
that.
Bluetooth and stuff like that. Yeah. So as long as you do it in an area where you have cell phone service. So they're like, well, worst case, drive a few minutes until you get some cell phone service, pull up the app and then go back to the house if you have to, or open it up and just leave your app open in your phone all day.
Yeah.
Just don't, do the close all apps. Like, so it's like,
I did not know about that. And
there's
I
ways
think
around
we've not run into that situation yet.
Yeah. I mean, we have areas around here where, I have Verizon and Verizon covers most areas, but there are some little pockets where you get down into a valley, cell phone service is just gone. It just doesn't reach there. So, if you get the luck of the draw and end up showing a house in one of those areas, but we only have like 750 to 800 agents here. So most people pretty much know what those are. And they know if they can't access the lockbox to pair it to that house while they're at the house, most of the time they're just putting a combo lockbox on it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you know what? If I'm having a problem putting the lockbox on the property as a listing agent, then every buyer's agent's going to be calling me. So I might as well just put a combo on it and call it a day.
The combos, the analog will never leave. They'll always be around. I still have like 30 of them.
I've got a good 10 or 15 or so in my closet.
Yeah, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
The only ones I don't like the analog one, and I don't know if this is a security threat that I'm releasing here, but you know those little square ones that you can mount to the door, that it's the combo and then the whole face comes off?
Yep.
Have you seen
Oh,
those?
Yes, I have.
it rings a bell, but I don't think yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't seen
there's
one
like
recently.
1 through 5 on the left, and then 6 through 10 on the right,
Like
or
little
6 through
buttons,
0
right?
on the right. The
Little
code, the code that you enter in does not need to be the code. You just need those 4 numbers. So the combinations to open that go way down. So if my combination was 1, 2, 3, 4, I could open that lockbox with 4, 3, 2, 1. Does that make sense? Or 3,
Gotcha.
4, 2, 1. Like, it doesn't matter the series that I enter them. As long as I have the numbers, it'll open. And I was like, well, I don't like that. That's not secure at all.
That's definitely where the power of central lock or other, high-tech solutions come in. But if you got to use a combo, yeah. And one thing I always hate about those two, if something comes off, what do you do with it? Like, you
Right.
stick it in your pocket? You set it on the porch?
Right.
Like, it's convenient when the door just opens and it's a hinge. You don't have to worry about, you just put the key in the door and it's there. Like, you can't
Yep.
lose it.
Yep. Yep. Last thing, because we're coming on like 10 minutes, and I wanted to touch on this because you're an agent in Illinois. So unfortunately, you get this question. One thing that we've always heard is Illinois, the big difference is that the agents have attorneys either draft or read the contracts before everything is final. You're saying that's just in the Chicago area?
Not just Chicago. Chicago, has like a 5-day attorney review period, and I think it just depends on what part of the city, what exactly that they do there. But they are heavily involved. I know Bloomington to our east has attorneys, Champaign does, but most of the southern tip of Illinois and around St. Louis and kind of here in our area, we don't really use attorneys very frequently. Our association, we have a contracts committee that meets every month. They take recommendations and stuff, and then they sit down as a committee and say, all right, are we having problems with X, Y, or Z? If we are, what could we change this contract to say to be better for the consumer? And they kind of hammer that out. And then at 1 or 2 points in the year, they'll go to bring in a couple of attorneys from the real estate subcommittee of our local bar association. They'll bring them into the room and they'll say, okay, here's the changes we want to do this year to our local contracts. And then they'll look at them and, okay, this makes sense or that makes no sense, whatever. They'll put their little twists on them to take them back to the committee. But eventually it ends up to that subcommittee of the bar association, and then the full local bar association will vote on to approve those or not. And then once they're approved by them, we put them into circulation and all the agents use them.
Sweet.
Okay.
So, I mean, I always recommend to my clients, like, hey, if you want an attorney, like, get one.
Yeah.
It is in your best interest to have one to
Right.
at least review the contract if you want it. But I always do that same speech to buyers. Like, look, this is why we don't typically use attorneys here. They have been looked over. They've got this full stamp of approval from the county bar association. All the attorneys here in our tri-county area are all familiar with them. They're all good with them, because they're looked at, they're changed pretty much every year. There's a couple things here, a couple things there. So that's
those changes
how we do
come
it.
from the county committees, not like the state. We have the WRA.
So the committee of agents is within our MLS, or our association, I should say.
Yeah.
About 20 agents or so sit at the table. Then it goes to a subcommittee of attorneys from the Peoria, I think it's Peoria County or Peoria County Area Bar Association.
Okay.
So they've got like 3 or 4 different attorneys that we bring in the room, and we say, go line by line, like, here's a change that we want to do. What do you think? Sometimes they're like, you know what, let's just change one little word. Sometimes they're like, this is stupid. This is not good. They know, because they're real estate attorneys, the full bar association is all types of attorneys. So they lean heavily on that subcommittee, so they're like, this doesn't work, or this is wonderful. This is great. We love this, whatever their feedback is. And so it's kind of a living, breathing document that gets changed once a year, and there's a lot of conversation. I was on that committee as the chair, I think 3 years ago. And there's a lot of work that goes into making those changes. There's a lot of thought process around it. Our contracts committee is probably the hardest committee to get on. And we try to have a good mix of experienced and newer agents on there for multiple perspectives. So we're usually pretty darn happy with the results that we get. Sometimes the attorneys fire some things back that is like, okay, all right, you are the attorneys.
Yeah.
We think it sounds great, but you know what? It does have to stand up in law. So that's why they're involved.
That's super cool. And just for your knowledge to be in the thick of like creating the document and the edits, like, you know, what's coming up down the line before everybody else gets to know. One, you get the sneak peek there, and then two, you get the background and the reference of why this is being put in. And that's a huge thing, which is why, like, early on in the show, you were talking about how people were coming to you asking questions. And you have, I mean, you're in the thick of it. You get to see all the whys and the whos and the whats.
That was a perfect example, because once those roll out, we have a training session available in person or Zoom to all of our members, you know, and then people will come up and be like, you know what, I really love that change. You know, what spurred that? Or I don't know about this. You know, what was the conversation around that? Like, why'd you guys do that?
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, if you're sitting at the table, you know and understand what that is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I was going to ask you, how did you get started on all of the committees and the boards, and what was your first step into that? Because for all new agents, I don't know if new agents would be a good fit for maybe a board, but for those people to reach out to, like, learn from those people.
Yeah. So 2013, I got my license, and I think it was like midsummer that they came out with committee signups, you know, and I think I had a conversation with mom about it, but I also knew that I was a rookie agent, right? What's the best way to catch up is knowledge.
Yeah.
The only way you're going to catch up with experienced people is knowledge. And how do you get that? You either read and learn, or you sit in the same room with people that are smarter than you.
Yeah.
So I signed up for Young Professionals Network that we had active at that time. The next year I signed up for Young Professionals, Fair Housing, and Contracts and Forms, and was lucky enough to get on contracts that year. And I stayed on that for, I think, 6 years. After a couple of years of being consistent on there, they were like, hey, you want to be vice chair, you know, then go up into the chair position, and then, you know, the immediate past chair. So I went through that. You know, ever since I've literally served on everything. I've also been on governmental affairs, on and off governmental affairs. I'm the vice chair of Fair Housing this year. I'm the vice chair of our public awareness committee. I've been on a handful of different task forces. There's a long list. And you know what? And a lot of people are like, well, how do you do that? You know what? It's an hour meeting. Like, it's not that long. You know, I choose 2 or 3 a year, a couple of hours, like an hour a week is what it usually comes out to. About 2 hours. Okay. Drive there and drive back. It's like 2 hours round trip. It's like, okay, I listen to a podcast when I'm driving there. I listen, you know, go to my meeting. I listen to a podcast coming back, which I love podcasts as a podcaster myself. So, like, you know, hey, it's a win-win. It squeezes that into my schedule somewhere.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? 2 hours a week. It's nothing. It's nothing, you know. And in the board of directors, I mean, that's one meeting a month, you know, and I got on that somehow. I don't know how that actually happened. It was a couple years in, like, I just got a phone call one day and like, you've been nominated for the board of directors. Will you come in and interview? So I go into this interview thinking it's going to be 1 or 2 people. No, it's like 10 past presidents and the association exec. And I'm like, okay, did not expect to.
And how many years in were you at that point?
3.
Okay.
3 or 4, something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Cause this is my 6th year. So yeah, I guess it was, right around that 3-year mark. Wow. So I'd only been serving on committees for a couple of years. You know, I'm like, well, what have I done other than consistently show up? I don't know. I don't know if that was enough to get nominated or not, but I'm glad and grateful, you know, that I've had that opportunity. So.
Yeah, not a lot of people have those experiences. A lot of people are so inundated with working, and I'll call it in the business, on their stuff, rather than going and taking the next leap and going into those groups and the boards and getting all the background information on that.
I mean,
that could offer.
Sales are important, right? I mean, we all got to feed our family, but what that looks like for everybody is different. Everybody takes different paths. And I realized one of my passions in life is that I want to teach people. And so probably learned that when I was pursuing my bachelor's degree, but I'm like, I'm gonna get my CE educator's license. I'm going to write some courses Our instructors, they're getting older. They're close to retirement. Some of them have told me what their timeframes are. So it just made perfect sense. We write some courses, get my feet wet, see what I can do with this, because we need to raise the professionalism and raise the education in this industry. So we can all serve our clients better. So, between that and serving on the board and, and selling, there's lots of different ways you can take things. There's no one size fits all.
Yep. So is your team coming down the horizon? You said you like teaching.
Oh, when the time's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When the time's right and I got the right person, right people to bring along.
Yeah.
Then I'll consider to do that. So
because there'd be another outlet for you to teach those young aspiring agents getting in. I mean, with the background you have, I just feel like it would be like a great fit because you can now get all those new people in and just inundate them with the education that you have. Obviously, I read a book and it talked about, it was more parenting. How are you?
Good. There you go.
The young inspiring real estate agent right there.
Yeah, right. He would be good.
They talked about how it was in the parenting reference, but the parents come through and they did 1, 2, and 3, and then they want to come in and have their kid take off at 4. So their kid does 4, 5, and 6. And they're like, well, you can't really miss the 1, 2, 3 because there's a whole bunch of learning that goes in that. And I feel like with how you speak about it and the knowledge you have, you'd be able to not move them past the 1, 2, 3, but get them through 1, 2, 3 quickly so that they can get on to 4, 5, 6, and then excel in their career.
I certainly hope so.
Not to push you into the team thing, but I just know it's out there.
Yeah, it's definitely something on the radar. Like I said, whenever the time is right, whenever, and I'm a firm believer on, making sure that you've got a well-oiled machine when it comes to a team too. So it's got to be personality fit. It's got to be somebody that I could feel you could just turn the reins over to and be like, here, you got the skills now, you got the education, go do.
Yeah.
Go do your thing.
Yeah.
And for somebody who has a hard time delegating sometimes, that's a hard thing. So, so it's really got to build some trust in that sometimes. But the right person comes along at the right time, I will definitely have a team.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I think Marcus is frozen. Yeah.
I was frozen there for a second. I heard it's tough to delegate, and I was fully agreeing, but that is a terrible, terrible problem to have because I have the same one. So sorry about the tech issue on that one.
That's all right. Can't help that. That's joys of technology.
Yep. Well, I mean, I am super blown away with, your career is still young, still very young, but what you've gotten through and where you've gone has been, leaps and bounds above the other people that have been in for 6 years. So kudos to you on building that really strong base.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing where this all takes you in the next. You said your mom was in it for 30. She's what, 30?
34 years now.
Okay. So the next, 28 for you?
25 for me to catch up to her. I've been doing this 9 years now. So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Forgot about the early ons.
Yeah.
So that's going to be exciting little, I'll call it an upswing because you're still growing.
Yeah, there's a lot of years left. There's been a lot of growing over 9 years. I can only imagine how much more growing over 25. So
yeah.
I'm excited.
Have you done any projections? Like where do you want to be? Not in 25, but in 5, or do you just take it day by day, month to month?
I kind of set annual goals and stuff like that, but no, I don't really set projections. I just take it one day at a time and just try to take some sort of imperfect action to just grow myself personally, professionally every day.
Yeah.
You get where you need to go.
Yeah.
As long as you have that.
Keep it up because you're making the right choices here.
I'll try.
From what it sounds like, you're spot on. So kudos.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And the next time we have you on, I'm looking forward to seeing what board you're the chair of, or how big your team is.
I'm sure there'll be some updates. of
There will
something.
be. I know there will be. I know there will be.
Well, thank you so
But-
much.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you for coming on. That was awesome. Education, that's like the key to what you're seeking in saying. And I mean, that's why we have this podcast out. I know that you came from like the real estate background, but we've had guests that have not. And obviously your background has helped you put to where you are, but there are some people that don't have the background that could still get to the positions like you're seeking and you're aspiring to get to. So thank you for sharing all that. I'm sure that was big for some listeners, and I soaked it all in because now I'm going to go back and see where I can get onto some boards because that seems super fun.
Yeah, you definitely should volunteer for something.
Yeah.
You never know, kind of insight, connections, networking. Like I said, we have 750, 800 agents here, so we all know each other fairly well.
Yeah.
So we have to work with each other. If you're up in Chicago or something, they got like 30,000 people up there. Like,
Yep.
you may never have a transaction with that person again.
Right.
But we bump into each other a lot around here, so it's important to all these committees and stuff. You just get to know people on a different level, and it really does help in your business.
Yeah.
Negotiating and communicating with people.
And I would think like with the small agent size, it kind of sets you above other people having all of that background. Like you can put that on your resume and say like, I've done X, Y, and Z where the others may not have. So you've got that upper edge on.
I got a few of those things like on a little resume thing. I don't know.
Yeah,
It definitely helps with experience, at least.
definitely.
Seen a lot of things.
Definitely. Well, I'm anticipating where the knowledge is going to grow when we have you on next. So keep pushing and we'll get you on again. We'll
All
talk
right.
soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Enjoy your
Appreciate you guys.
weekend.
Yep.
Bye.